She just wanted to take care of her son. But at the hospital, she re-encountered the man who left without knowing he had left a piece of himself behind. If you like stories like this, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We post every day. Continuing. The alarm clock rang for the third time that Tuesday morning. Cecilia stretched out her arm to silence it, accidentally knocking over the glass of water from the night before. It was another day starting clumsily, like so many others in the life of the Portuguese teacher at the community school in the Brixton neighborhood of London. 32 years old, curly hair always tied in an improvised bun, tired brown eyes that rarely received a touch of eyeliner. "Lucas, breakfast is ready, son! We're going to be late again!" she shouted, trying to find her hairbrush amidst the clutter of their small, two-bedroom apartment. The 5-year-old boy, with dark hair and deep green eyes, an unmistakable paternal inheritance, remained tangled in his superhero sheets. "Just 5 more minutes, Mom." Cecilia smiled, even in the rush. Her son had that whiny way that disarmed her every morning. But there was no time. In the kitchen, a missed call appeared on her phone screen. Unknown number. She ignored it. Probably another bill, one of those she kept pushing to the next month, as she had been doing for almost 2 years, ever since she lost her second job as a freelance translator. "Lucas, now!" she insisted, tossing a piece of toast into his lunchbox along with a juice box. "I need to drop you off at school before 7:30. That's when she heard a thud followed by a cry. She ran to the bedroom and found her son fallen beside the bed, holding his right arm against his chest. His face contorted in pain made her heart freeze. "My God, son, what happened?" she asked, kneeling beside him. I fell trying to jump off the bed," the boy sobbed. Cecilia examined his arm. It was swelling rapidly. She knew by maternal instinct that it wasn't just a bump. She took a deep breath, trying to ward off panic. She needed to be strong. It had always been this way, ever since she found herself alone with a newborn 5 years ago. "It's okay, we're going to the hospital. You don't need to go to school today." Within 20 minutes, they were at the emergency room of St. Christopher's Hospital. It was the closest to home, although not one she would normally frequent with the basic health insurance plan she could afford. But Lucas's pain was worsening, and she didn't want to risk waiting hours in line at a public hospital. The receptionist collected their basic information and directed them to the orthopedics ward. In the waiting room, Lucas seemed calmer, distracted by the videos Cecilia put on her phone. Meanwhile, she couldn't stop thinking about the classes she would miss, the deduction from her salary, the overdue school tuition. "Lucas Almeida?" a nurse called out. Mother and son entered the examination room. The doctor had his back to them, writing something on a chart. Impeccable white coat, neatly cut dark hair. When he turned around, Cecilia felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. Henry Miller. The same intense green gaze she saw every morning in her son's eyes. The same man who vanished from her life without explanation 6 years ago. The father Lucas had never known. "Cecilia?" His voice came out low, almost a whisper. The office suddenly seemed too small, the air scarce. The nurse, oblivious to the tension, checked Lucas's vital signs, who looked curiously at the man who had just called his mother by name. "Doctor," she replied dryly, avoiding his name. "My son fell out of bed this morning. I believe he may have broken his arm." Henry seemed to want to say something more, but his professionalism prevailed. He approached the boy with a gentle smile. "Hi, champ. Can I take a look at that arm?" Lucas looked at his mother, who nodded even as she felt her face burn. As Henry carefully examined the boy's arm, Cecilia noticed how his eyes lingered on Lucas's face, on the features that were evidently his. The silence weighed heavily between the adults like a storm about to break. "We'll need an X-ray to confirm," he finally said, without taking his eyes off Lucas. "It looks like a radius fracture, but it's not displaced, which is good." The nurse took Lucas for the exam, leaving Henry and Cecilia alone in the office. The silence became deafening. "How old is he?" Henry's voice cut through the air. Cecilia stared at him with years of accumulated coldness. 5 years and 2 months. Henry did the math mentally. His face paled. "Cecilia, No. Not here. Not now." She cut him off, her voice trembling with suppressed anger. "Lucas is my son. Only mine. You lost that right when you decided your career plans were more important." "I never knew," he began, but was interrupted by the nurse's return with Lucas. The exam confirmed the diagnosis. Lucas would need to wear a splint for a few weeks. While the nurse prepared the materials, Henry filled out the medical chart. His eyes constantly darted to the boy who was now watching cartoons on Cecilia's phone. "He looks a lot like you," Cecilia commented, surprising herself. Henry swallowed hard. "And like you too, he has your smile." A shadow crossed her face. "He learned to smile without you around." The nurse returned and began to apply the splint to Lucas's arm. Henry took the opportunity to approach Cecilia. "We need to talk. Please." "There's nothing for us to talk about. There are 5 years of explanations you deserve to hear. And a son who—" He hesitated. "A son you didn't even know existed? Is that what you were going to say?" The venom in her voice was palpable. Henry's gaze shifted to Lucas, who was now receiving instructions from the nurse on how to care for his arm. "I have the right to explain what happened." "You had 6 years for that." Before he could respond, a woman entered the office without knocking. Tall, slender blonde hair perfectly styled in a bun, wearing a lab coat as white as Henry's. On the ID badge pinned to her chest, it read, "Dr. Camilla Rivers, neurosurgeon." "Henry, we need to discuss case 204. She paused, noticing the tension in the room. "Sorry, I didn't know you were with a patient." "I'm finishing up, Camilla." His tone was polite but firm. The doctor cast an appraising look at Cecilia from head to toe and then at Lucas. Her eyes narrowed slightly before she left. "I'll wait in the doctor's lounge," she said coldly. After she left, Henry turned to Cecilia. "She's just a colleague," he explained quickly, though no one had asked. Cecilia gave a tired smile. "Your life is none of my business, doctor." The nurse finished the procedure, and Henry handed over the prescription for painkillers and instructions. Instead of handing the paper to Cecilia, he knelt down to Lucas's height. "You were very brave today," he said, in a soft voice that Cecilia knew well, the same one that had once made her fall in love. "You need to take these medicines I'm prescribing and not strain that arm, okay?" Lucas nodded, fascinated by the doctor in the white coat. "Can I play video games with my other hand?" Henry laughed. "Of course you can. Just don't fall out of bed again, okay?" As Lucas and Cecilia prepared to leave, Henry wrote something on the back of a card and handed it to her. "My personal number. Please, we need to talk." Cecilia took the card automatically but didn't respond. In the hallway, before they could reach the elevator, Henry appeared again. "Cecilia," he called, his voice low but urgent. 5 years. I have a 5-year-old son I don't know. You can't just leave like this." She turned, her face a mask of hurt and anger. "I tried to find you when I found out I was pregnant. Your emails bounced back. Your number changed. Your mother said you asked not to be disturbed while you were out of the country. What else could I do?" His face paled. "I never received anything. I never knew you tried to contact me." "Convenient," she retorted bitterly. "I loved you, Cecilia. I would never have disappeared if I had known that." "But you disappeared anyway, didn't you?" she interrupted. "And now you have your perfect life in this elite hospital, probably with that polished doctor who just looked at us like we were intruders." Henry ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture she knew well. It's not like that at all. There were things you don't know. Things that... His phone rang, interrupting the conversation. It was an emergency in the emergency room. He looked, torn between duty and the revelation that had just shaken his life. I have to go, but this doesn't end here, Cecilia. I will find you. We will sort this out. She merely nodded, too exhausted to continue fighting. She took Lucas's hand and entered the elevator, feeling Henry's gaze follow them until the doors closed. Back in their small apartment, Cecilia helped Lucas settle on the sofa with cartoons and an improvised sandwich. When the boy finally fell asleep, she allowed herself to cry silently. On the tiny balcony, Henry's card still clutched in her hand. Her phone vibrated. A text message from an unknown number. "Can I come over later? I need to see you. It's about Lucas, please." It was Henry. She didn't respond immediately. Inside her mind, a whirlwind of emotions fought for space. Anger at his absence, fear for the future, and a small, inconvenient spark of something she thought had died long ago. At the hospital, Henry ended his shift early, citing a family emergency. In his luxury car, parked in the exclusive underground lot for doctors, he opened the glove compartment and took out a small velvet box. Inside, a pair of wedding rings he never got to give. Beside it, a yellowed envelope with Cecilia's address handwritten on it, returned with a recipient unknown stamp. "It wasn't my fault," he murmured to himself, "but I'm going to fix this." Meanwhile, on the 15th floor of the same hospital, Camilla Rivers reviewed patient charts in her private office, decorated with diplomas and awards. Her mind, however, was far from the patients. Henry's gaze at that simple woman and child in the office deeply disturbed her. She opened a locked drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside, photos of Henry in different situations, some with her, others alone. A carefully documented obsession for almost 2 years, ever since he arrived at the hospital. On the last page of the folder, a recent note. "First time I saw him look at another woman. Find out who she is." Cecilia finally replied to Henry's message. "Tomorrow, after Lucas is at school, 10 a.m. I don't want him to see you yet." The next day, promptly at 10 a.m., the doorbell rang. Cecilia took a deep breath before opening the door. Henry looked different without the lab coat, more approachable, more human. He wore jeans and a simple shirt, his hair less tidy than at the hospital. He carried a bag in one hand and flowers in the other. "May I come in?" he asked, hesitantly. Cecilia stepped aside, not accepting the flowers. The apartment seemed to shrink with his presence, a cruel reminder of the distance between the worlds they now inhabited. "I brought something for Lucas." Henry took a plush dinosaur and some children's books out of the bag. "I didn't know what he likes." "Dinosaurs are fine," she replied, dryly, pointing to some figures stuck on the refrigerator. He smiled, a melancholy smile. "Just like me when I was a kid." The comment hung in the air, the first explicit reference to the paternity that involuntarily connected them. "Why are you here, Henry? Really?" He placed the gifts on the table and faced her. "To explain what happened, to meet my son, to fix what can be fixed." Cecilia crossed her arms, protective. 6 years too late. "I never knew you tried to contact me, Cecilia, I swear." His eyes pleaded for understanding. "When I left for London, I promised to be back in a year. Remember? We had plans." "Which you threw away." "No." His voice rose for a moment. "I wrote to you for weeks after I got there. You never replied. I called, and the call went to voicemail. After 3 months of trying, I received a letter from you." He pulled a crumpled old envelope from his pocket. "This letter, saying you had met someone else, and that I should move on with my life." Cecilia's eyes widened, taking the letter with trembling hands. The signature looked like hers, but she had never written those words. I I never sent you this." Their eyes met, a dark understanding dawning between them. "Your mother," Cecilia murmured. "She never approved of our relationship. She always said I wasn't good enough for the doctor, son of the illustrious Miller family." Henry shook his head. "My mother passed away 3 years ago, Cecilia. But yes, she would be capable of that. She did everything for me to accept that residency in London, saying it was the chance of a lifetime, that you would understand." The weight of the manipulation fell upon them like an avalanche. 6 years of separation, a son growing up without a father, lives taking different paths, all based on a lie. "You could have come back," she insisted, silent tears streaming down her face. "You could have checked in person." "I did come back, Cecilia, after a year when I finished the first cycle of my residency. I went to your old apartment and they said you had moved without leaving an address. I went to the university where you taught and they informed me you had resigned. It was as if you had disappeared." Cecilia remembered the turbulent time after discovering her. Pregnancy, moving to a cheaper apartment, changing jobs, the decision to start over in another neighborhood to avoid meeting acquaintances of the Miller family. "When I found out I was pregnant, you had already been gone for 4 months. I called your house and your mother said you were happy in London, building a new life and didn't want to be disturbed. I believed her, Henry. How could I have been so foolish?" He approached, hesitant, and touched her face. "We were both deceived, but now I'm here. I want to meet my son. I want to be a part of his life." She pulled away, still resistant. "It's not that simple. Lucas never had a father. He barely asks about it. And I built my life alone. We don't need you out of pity or obligation." "It's not pity, Cecilia. He's my son, my blood. I have the right to know him, to love him. And when you get tired, when the novelty wears off, will you go back to your perfect life, to that elegant doctor, and leave Lucas heartbroken?" The mention of Camilla made Henry's face harden. "Camilla is nothing to me but a colleague, an insistent colleague, I must admit." "She didn't seem just a colleague by the way she walked into your office. She's the hospital director's daughter. She has influence. But there's nothing between us." He hesitated. "There was once a dinner, nothing more. She seems to have created expectations that I never fueled." Cecilia laughed without humor. "Always surrounded by powerful women, aren't you, Henry? The only woman who truly mattered in my life was you." The sincerity in his voice was palpable. "And now there's Lucas, too." Cecilia's phone rang. It was Lucas's school, informing her that the boy had a slight fever and needed to be picked up. The conversation would have to wait. "I need to go," she said, grabbing her bag. "Lucas isn't well." "I'll go with you," Henry offered immediately. She hesitated but nodded. In Cecilia's modest car, Henry seemed out of place, his legs barely fitting in the cramped space. The difference between their worlds had never seemed so evident. Arriving at the school, Lucas was in the infirmary, pale but excited to see his mother. His expression lit up as he recognized the doctor from the previous day. "Dinosaur doctor!" he exclaimed, surprising the adults. "Dinosaur doctor?" Cecilia looked confused. Henry smiled, kneeling beside the boy. "Did you see my pendant?" Only then did Cecilia notice the small silver dinosaur on the chain he wore. Lucas nodded excitedly. "It's a T-Rex! I have the exact same one in my pencil case." Henry looked at Cecilia, a silent question in his eyes. "It was a birthday gift," she explained. "He's loved dinosaurs since he was 3. "Me too, since I was a kid," Henry murmured, emotion showing in his voice. On the way back to the apartment, Lucas fell asleep in the back seat. Henry drove this time, insisting that Cecilia sit in the back with their son. In the rearview mirror, he watched the two of them, feeling a mixture of love, regret, and determination grow within him. Does he get fevers often? He asked, concerned. Once in a while. Nothing serious, usually. Cecilia stroked her son's hair. He has a small allergic condition, an inheritance from his paternal side, I imagine. Your mother once mentioned your childhood allergies. Henry nodded, absorbing every piece of information about his son like a precious treasure. Upon reaching the building, he carried the sleeping Lucas upstairs, refusing to wake him. In the small room decorated with stars and dinosaurs, he carefully laid the boy down and watched him for a long moment. "He's perfect," he whispered. Cecilia, standing at the door, felt her heart ache. Yes, he is. Back in the living room, the atmosphere between them had subtly changed. The initial anger gave way to a cautious truce, united by their shared concern for Lucas. "What happens now?" she asked, pouring coffee into simple mugs. "I want to be a part of his life, officially. Paternity acknowledgement, child support, everything I have the right and duty to, offer." "What if I say no?" "You wouldn't. It's not fair to Lucas." He held her hand across the table. "Nor to you, who carried this burden alone for so long." His touch awakened memories Cecilia had tried to bury. Their first kiss in the university garden, nights studying together for his medical exams, plans for a future that never happened. "I'm scared, Henry. Scared to trust again. Scared Lucas will get attached and you'll disappear. I'm not going anywhere this time, I promise." His eyes reflected an unwavering determination. "I'll prove it every day if you give me a chance." His phone vibrated insistently, several messages in sequence. Camilla. "Trouble in paradise?" Cecilia asked, ironically. Henry turned off the phone without checking it. "Nothing important." But they both knew that complications were just beginning. A new message arrived, this time on Cecilia's phone, from an unknown number. "Stay away from him. You don't know who you're dealing with." She paled, showing the message to Henry. "Camilla," he murmured, concerned. "This isn't good." "What does she want from you?" "Control. Influence. Her name on the medical center her father wants to build." He ran a hand through his hair, nervous. "She's not stable, Cecilia. And now that she knows about Lucas..." Fear settled between them, a new obstacle to overcome. In the next room, Lucas slept peacefully, oblivious to the storm brewing around him. His existence, now revealed, had unleashed forces neither of them could foresee. Henry picked up the phone again, making a decision. "I'll sort this out, now." "What are you going to do?" "Ensure you both are safe. That's all that matters now." He stood up, determined. "I'll be back tomorrow. Lock the door and don't open it for anyone." Before leaving, he stopped at Lucas's bedroom door again, watching the son he barely knew. A silent promise formed in his heart. Nothing and no one would separate them again. 3 days passed since the hospital encounter. Cecilia tried to resume her routine with Lucas, who was already adapting well to the splint on his arm. The school allowed him back to classes, as long as he didn't participate in physical activities. In the small teacher's lounge at the community school, while correcting essays during her break, Cecilia's phone vibrated with a message from Henry. "Can I pick Lucas up today? I'd like to take him for ice cream. With your permission, of course." She felt her stomach clench. Was it too soon? Lucas didn't even know that friendly doctor was his father. On the other hand, if Henry really wanted to be part of his son's life, they needed to start somewhere. "All right, we leave at 5:30 p.m. I'll come along." The reply was instantaneous. "Perfect. I'll be waiting at the gate." Sandra, the math teacher who shared the table with Cecilia, noticed her worried expression. "Problems?" Cecilia hesitated. She hadn't told anyone about Henry's reappearance. "Lucas's father is back," she finally said, the words sounding strange in her mouth. Sandra's eyes widened. "His father?" The one you said had disappeared even before he was born? Yes. He apparently never knew about the pregnancy. And you believe that? Her friend's incredulity was evident. Cecilia sighed. Honestly, I don't know. But he's trying to get close now, and Lucas deserves to know his father. Be careful, Cece. Men like that show up when it's convenient and disappear at the first sign of trouble. Sandra's words echoed throughout the day. At 5:30 p.m., when Cecilia walked out with Lucas by the hand, she saw Henry's car parked in front of the school. He was leaning against the vehicle without his white lab coat, wearing jeans and a simple blue shirt. He seemed to have made an effort to appear less intimidating. Lucas recognized him immediately. "Look, Mom, it's the dinosaur doctor." Henry smiled, kneeling down to the boy's height. "Hey, champ, how's that arm?" "It's fine. Everyone in class signed my splint. Look." Lucas proudly extended his arm. "Wow, that's really cool. You know that signatures on a splint help it heal faster, didn't you?" Lucas's eyes sparkled. "Really?" "Absolutely. It's advanced medical science," Henry replied with feigned seriousness, winking at Cecilia, who couldn't help but crack a small smile. "Your mom said we could get some ice cream. Are you up for it?" "Yes." Lucas jumped excitedly, already heading towards the car. On the way to the ice cream parlor, Henry occasionally glanced in the rearview mirror as if checking if they were being followed. Cecilia noticed. "Any problem?" He lowered the volume of the radio, which was playing children's songs. "Camilla isn't too happy with my change of focus." "Did she threaten you?" "Not directly, but I know her game. And the worst part is, she has influence at the hospital." "Because of her father?" Henry nodded. "Dr. Richard Rivers, one of the country's most renowned surgeons, and also the hospital's largest shareholder. He practically controls all major decisions." "And why does that matter so much to you?" The question came out sharper than Cecilia intended. Henry sighed. "It's not what you're thinking. There's a research project I've been developing for almost 2 years on innovative treatments for complex bone fractures. It's important, Cecilia. It could help thousands of people." She felt small for having assumed they were just personal ambitions. "I'm sorry." "No, you have every right to question. I haven't been present until now. But you need to understand that even with all the obstacles, you two are more important than any research or career." At the ice cream parlor, Lucas chose chocolate ice cream with extra syrup and colorful sprinkles. They sat at a table in the back where Henry continued to discreetly check the entrance. "Doctor, do you like dinosaurs too?" Lucas asked between generous spoonfuls. "Very much. Did you know that when I was your age, I also had a toy T-Rex that I took everywhere?" Lucas's eyes widened. "Me too, but mine broke." "Really? Then we need to get you a new one." Cecilia watched the interaction, torn between the fear of Lucas getting too attached and the joy of seeing him happy with his father. It was strange how Henry seemed to naturally fit into the paternal role, as if he had always been there. When they finished their ice cream, Lucas asked to go to the bathroom. While they waited, Henry took the opportunity to update Cecilia. "I got a lawyer. We can file for paternity acknowledgement tomorrow if you agree." "So fast?" "The sooner we formalize it, the better. It also guarantees us certain rights and protections." The way he said protections made Cecilia shiver. "Do you think Camilla would do something against Lucas?" Henry hesitated. "Not directly, but she is obsessive, and she has access to resources and information that most people don't." "Were you involved with her?" The question hung between them, laden with implications. "There was a dinner almost a year ago, a hospital charity event. I danced with her, we talked. In her mind, that meant more than it really was." He sighed deeply. "Since then, she's had this fixation. It started with gifts, then constant messages, showing up in places where I would be. Her father approves, of course, An alliance between two traditional medical families would be convenient. Cecilia tried to imagine herself in that world of charity events and family alliances, a universe far removed from hers, of overdue bills and weekend tutoring to supplement her income. Lucas came running back, interrupting the conversation. On the way back to the car, he insisted on holding Henry's hand along with Cecilia's, forming a small chain. The gesture, so simple and childish, carried a symbolism that did not go unnoticed by either adult. Parked in front of the modest building where Cecilia lived, Henry suggested, "Can I come up for a bit? I brought some games I thought Lucas might like." She nodded, though a part of her still feared letting him too far into their lives. In the small apartment, Henry set up a board game on the living room table, while Lucas excitedly talked about his school friends. The normality of the scene was almost painful for Cecilia. Was this how it should have been from the start? After Lucas fell asleep, exhausted from playing, Henry and Cecilia sat. On the tiny balcony, sharing a bottle of cheap wine he insisted on opening. "He's amazing," Henry commented, looking at the city lights. "So smart, so full of life. You did an incredible job, Cecilia." "I had no choice. It was just him and me against the world." "That's going to change now. You're not alone anymore." She took a sip of wine, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Until when, Henry? Until your next opportunity abroad? Until your next big project?" He turned to face her. "I'm not going anywhere, and if I do, I'm taking both of you with me. Our life is here. My job, Lucas's school. I know. I'm not asking you to change your lives. I'm just saying I want to be a part of them in whatever way possible." His phone rang. It was the hospital, an emergency requiring his immediate presence. "I have to go," he said, visibly frustrated. "Can we continue this conversation tomorrow? I want to take you both to see my apartment. I have an empty room that could be Lucas's whenever he wants to stay with me." Cecilia nodded, though the idea of Lucas sleeping away from her still scared her. Before leaving, Henry paused and, on an impulse, lightly kissed her forehead. "Thank you for today. It meant a lot." After he left, Cecilia checked on Lucas, who was sleeping soundly, hugging the new dinosaur Henry had brought. In the last 6 years, she had built walls around her heart, convincing herself that she didn't need anyone but her son. But Henry's presence was beginning to open small cracks in those defenses, and that terrified her. At the hospital, Henry was dealing with a patient who had suffered a motorcycle accident when he noticed Camilla watching him through the emergency room window. After stabilizing the patient and handing him over to the surgical team, he found her in the hallway. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low but firm. "About your mistress and the little bastard?" The coldness in her voice contrasted with the anger in her eyes. "Don't talk about them like that." Henry took her arm, leading her into an empty room. "And Cecilia is not my mistress. She is the mother of my son, a son I didn't know existed until a few days ago." Camilla laughed, a joyless sound. "How convenient, Henry. An ex-girlfriend appears out of nowhere with a child, and you just believe it?" "I don't need to believe it. Just look at the boy. He is my son, Camilla, and I will be a part of his life from now on." "So that's it? You're going to throw away everything we built because of some suburban school teacher?" "We didn't build anything, Camilla. There was a dinner almost a year ago. That's all." Her face transformed, a mask of fury replacing her usual composure. "You really don't understand, do you? My father has already approved our marriage. The medical center, bearing your name, is already in his plans. Your research, all of this depends on me. No, it depends on my work and dedication. And if your father wants to withdraw support for the research because I won't marry you, then it wasn't genuine support for science, was it?" Camilla moved closer, her expensive perfume invading his personal space. Don't be naive. Nothing in this world works solely on merit. You need me. I only need my family. He stepped back, resolute. And if you come near them, if you try anything against Cecilia or Lucas, I will destroy you. Camilla, no matter who your father is. She smiled, a cold smile that didn't reach her eyes. You have no idea who you're dealing with, Henry, but you will find out. The next day, Cecilia was surprised by an unexpected visit at school. The coordinator called her into the classroom, informing her that a social worker wanted to speak with her about Lucas. In the small principal's office, a woman in a suit and with a stern expression awaited her. Mrs. Almeida, I'm Patricia Vance from Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous complaint about possible neglect regarding your son. Cecilia's blood ran cold. Neglect? That's absurd. According to the complaint, your son recently suffered a domestic accident that resulted in a fracture. It also states that you frequently leave him alone to work extra hours. That's a lie. Cecilia felt panic rising. Lucas fell out of bed, an accident that could happen in any family, and I never leave him alone. The social worker made notes on her clipboard, her face impassive. I understand your indignation, madam. But it is our duty to investigate any complaint related to the well-being of minors. I will need to visit your residence and interview your son. Who made this complaint? Cecilia's voice trembled. Complaints are anonymous to protect the complainants. The woman handed her an official document. I will be at your home tomorrow at 2 p.m. Please ensure your son is present. As soon as the social worker left, Cecilia dialed Henry's number with trembling fingers. She did this. She's trying to take Lucas from me. What are you talking about? Who? Camilla. A social worker just left here. There was a complaint of neglect against me. The silence on the other end of the line confirmed her fears. I'm coming to get you both right now, he finally said, his voice laden with concern. I can't leave. I'm at work, and Lucas is in class. After school, then. But you're not going back to the apartment today. You're staying with me. Henry, that will look like fleeing. It will make things worse with Child Protective Services. He took a deep breath. You're right. Then we'll face this together. I'll be there at dismissal time. When Henry arrived to pick up Cecilia and Lucas, she noticed he looked different, more tense, more determined. In the car, while Lucas was distracted with a new tablet Henry had brought, they talked in low voices. I went to the hospital earlier today to confront Camilla, he explained. She denied everything, of course, but I noticed she had accessed Lucas's medical records in the system. She didn't have authorization for that. And now? I got a copy of the access log. It's proof of an ethical violation. I've already filed a formal complaint against her with the hospital's ethics committee. Won't that make things worse? Perhaps. But we can't let her think she can attack us with impunity. At the apartment, Henry insisted on checking everything, from the stocked pantry to Lucas's organized room, as well as the child's school and medical documents. The social worker will look for anything to use against you, he explained. We need to be prepared. Cecilia watched him move around the small space as if he already belonged there, helping Lucas with his homework, preparing dinner while she organized the necessary documents. It was strange and comforting at the same time. After Lucas fell asleep, they sat at the kitchen table with cups of tea. Henry held her hand across the table. We'll get through this together, I promise. She felt tears well up. I'm so scared, Henry. What if she succeeds? What if they take Lucas? That won't happen. We're good parents. We have ways to prove it. Are we? The word came out before she could think. He squeezed her hand tighter. Yes, we are. I know I arrived late, but I'm here now, and I'll fight for you both with everything I have. That night, when Henry left, promising to return early in the morning, Cecilia sat on the edge of Lucas's bed, watching him sleep. How to explain to a 5-year-old that someone wanted to separate mother and son out of pure revenge? How to protect him from a malice he wouldn't even be able to comprehend? The next morning, promptly at 8 a.m., Henry appeared with a full breakfast and a lawyer. Dr. Morris Taylor was an older man with a gentle expression but sharp eyes, specialized in family law. "I've already reviewed the case," he explained while Lucas played in the bedroom. "The complaint is flimsy, based only on allegations without concrete evidence. With the paternity acknowledgement we'll file today, Dr. Miller also gains legal responsibility for the child, which strengthens your position." "What if it's not enough?" Cecilia asked, still apprehensive. "I have a few cards up my sleeve." The lawyer smiled discreetly. "Including the records of improper access to medical files and evidence of harassment by Dr. Rivers." At 2 p.m., the social worker arrived. Henry made sure to be present, officially introducing himself as Lucas's father, with the newly signed paternity acknowledgement documents in hand. The lawyer's presence also made it clear that they would not be easy victims. The visit was thorough. Patricia checked Lucas's room, the pantry, medications, asked questions about the child's routine, school, medical care. She interviewed Lucas separately, asking about the accident, how he felt at home, if he had ever been left alone. When she finished, her expression was softer than the day before. "The preliminary report will be favorable," she said to Cecilia's relief. "I found no evidence to support the allegations of the complaint. In fact, what I saw was a well-cared-for, healthy, and happy child." Henry formally thanked her, while the lawyer requested a copy of the original complaint, claiming the right to defense. After they left, Cecilia collapsed on the sofa, emotionally exhausted. Lucas, oblivious to the tension, returned to his toys. "Is it over?" she asked, almost disbelieving. "Not completely yet." Henry sat beside her. "But we're on the right track." At the hospital, Camilla received news that she was being investigated by the ethics committee. Her father, Dr. Richard Rivers, called an emergency meeting with the board. "This is a personal vendetta," he argued, supporting his daughter. "Dr. Miller is creating this situation to divert attention from the fact that he abandoned a pregnant woman 6 years ago." The meeting room was divided. Some supported the powerful and influential Rivers family. Others defended Henry, whose work was recognized and respected. "We have the access logs," insisted the head of information security. "Dr. Rivers accessed patient data without authorization or clinical necessity." "It could have been a mistake," Richard justified. "My daughter would never do anything unethical deliberately." As the meeting proceeded, Camilla watched from the 15th floor window, her eyes fixed on the city skyline. Her phone rang. It was her contact at Child Protective Services, informing her that the visit had not yielded sufficient evidence for more drastic action against Cecilia. "Keep watching," she instructed. "Any slip-up, anything that could be interpreted as neglect, I want to know immediately." 2 weeks passed. Cecilia and Lucas's routine now included Henry almost daily, dinners together, weekend outings, help with homework. Lucas blossomed with the attention of his newfound father, while Cecilia struggled internally with contradictory feelings. On one hand, seeing Henry embrace his paternal role brought a security she had never had. On the other hand, every time he left the apartment to return to his luxurious life, she felt the social chasm between them. How could they build something real with so many differences? One Saturday morning, while Lucas was still asleep, Henry appeared unannounced, a serious expression on his face. "Camilla was suspended yesterday," he announced, entering the apartment. "The ethics committee decided there was a clear violation of regulations." "That's good, isn't it?" He hesitated. "Yes and no. I'm glad justice was done, but Richard is furious. He threatened to cut all funding for my research." "Oh, Henry." Cecilia felt the weight of guilt. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be. The research is important, but you two are more important." He took her hands. In fact, I came to tell you something else. I received an offer to coordinate a pediatric orthopedics department in Edinburgh. It's a smaller hospital, but with an excellent reputation, and far from the river's influence. Cecilia's heart raced. Are you leaving? Not without you both. He looked at her intensely. Come with me, Cecilia. We can start over away from here. Lucas would have a bigger room. You could teach at one of the best schools in the city. We could be a real family. A family? The word echoed between them. Henry, it's not that simple. My life is here, my job, Lucas's friends. I know I'm asking a lot, but think about what we could build together without the shadow of Camilla and this whole situation. Before she could answer, Lucas appeared at the bedroom door, rubbing his sleepy eyes. Daddy. The word, used for the first time, caught both adults by surprise. Did you come to pick me up for the zoo? Henry recovered first, kneeling to hug his son. Of course, champ. Are you ready to see the dinosaurs? Real dinosaurs. The boy's eyes sparkled. Well, not exactly real ones, but there's a special exhibition with life-size robot dinosaurs. As Lucas ran to get dressed, Cecilia and Henry exchanged a look laden with emotion. He called me Dad, Henry murmured, his voice choked. He's been asking if he could call you that, Cecilia admitted. I told him he needed to ask you first, but it seems he decided on his own. Henry laughed, wiping away a discreet tear. He's determined, like his mother. At the zoo, they looked like any other family. Henry carried Lucas on his shoulders to get a better view of the animals, bought cotton candy, and took pictures of the three of them together. At one point, while Lucas watched the mechanical dinosaurs fascinated, Henry took Cecilia's hand. I never stopped loving you, he confessed, his eyes fixed on hers. Even when I believed you had moved on, even in the empty relationships I had afterward, it was you I saw. Cecilia felt her heart race. Could they truly rebuild something that had been destroyed by so many years of absence and hurt? Henry, Before she could finish, his phone rang. It was the hospital. An emergency with one of his patients required his immediate presence. I have to go, he said, frustrated. Do you want me to drop you home first? No, Cecilia replied, determined. We'll stay and finish our outing. Lucas would be devastated if we left now. He nodded, kissing her forehead impulsively before leaving. We'll continue this conversation later, I promise. As she watched Henry walk away, Cecilia felt a presence behind her. Turning around, she met Camilla's cold gaze. Enjoying your family day? The irony in her voice was cutting. Cecilia instinctively looked for Lucas, relieved to see him still absorbed in the exhibition, a few meters away from them. What do you want, Camilla? Just to meet the woman who destroyed my life. She smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I must admit, you're not what I expected. So common. If you came to intimidate me, you're wasting your time. Intimidate? No, I came to make an offer. Camilla opened her designer purse and took out an envelope. 100,000 pounds, for you to take your son and disappear from Henry's life. Cecilia looked at the envelope as if it were a snake about to strike. You're insane. On the contrary, I'm being extremely rational. You're an underpaid teacher, living in a tiny apartment. With this money, you could give your son a much better life. Far from here, of course. Lucas has a father now, a father who loves him. For now. Camilla put the envelope away, indifferent to the refusal. But how long will that last? Henry has always been ambitious. His research is his priority. It always has been. And now, thanks to you, he might lose everything. If the research were that important, he wouldn't have accepted a position in Edinburgh. Camilla's face visibly paled. He accepted the position in Edinburgh? Cecilia realized she had revealed information Camilla didn't yet know. That doesn't matter. I'm not interested in your money. Lucas and I will stay exactly where we are. Camilla's eyes narrowed. You really haven't understood the seriousness of the situation, have you? This isn't a request, teacher. It's a warning. Either you leave his life voluntarily, or I will ensure you leave in the worst possible way. Threatening me in front of my son? That's low even for you. Mommy? Lucas's voice interrupted the confrontation. He approached, looking curiously at Camilla. Who is this lady? Camilla knelt down with an artificial smile. Hi, Lucas. I'm a friend of your dad's. He told me a lot about you. Cecilia's maternal instinct screamed alarms. Lucas, let's go. We need to, go home now. Taking her son's hand, she quickly walked away, feeling Camilla's gaze burning on her back. In the taxi on the way home, Lucas asked, Daddy's friend seemed angry with you, Mommy. Sometimes adults disagree about things, my love. It's nothing you need to worry about. But as the taxi cut through the streets of London, Cecilia knew the threat was real, and for the first time, the idea of starting over in Edinburgh didn't seem so bad after all. That night, after putting Lucas to bed, she called Henry. We're going to Edinburgh, she said without preamble. I met Camilla today at the zoo. What? Did she do something? Say something to Lucas? She tried to buy me off, Henry. £100,000 to disappear from your life. The silence on the other end was heavy with fury. This ends now. What are you going to do? First, ensure you both are safe. Then deal with this once and for all. Night was falling over London when Henry arrived at Cecilia's apartment. There was an urgency in his movements as he knocked on the door, his eyes constantly checking the empty hallway. When Cecilia opened it, he quickly stepped inside, locking the door behind him. Is Lucas sleeping? He asked in a low voice. She nodded, noticing the tension on his face. Almost an hour ago. The outing exhausted him. She paused. Henry, what's happening? You're scaring me. He took off his coat, revealing a large brown envelope under his arm. I had a conversation with Camilla's father this afternoon. I thought we could resolve this like adults, professionals. I was wrong. What happened? Henry threw the envelope onto the small coffee table. Richard gave me an ultimatum. Either I end my relationship with you and resolve the situation with Lucas discreetly, or he'll ensure I never practice medicine in London again. Cecilia felt her stomach sink. He can do that? Unfortunately, yes. His influence is greater than you imagine. He controls half the private hospitals in the city and has enough political connections to complicate my life and the public ones, too. What's in the envelope? Henry took a deep breath before opening it. Evidence. I spent the afternoon collecting everything I could. He spread the documents on the table. Access logs to the hospital system showing Camilla searching for information about Lucas. Dates, times, everything. And this, he held up a folder. It's a copy of the complaint made to Child Protective Services. The signature is anonymous, but the IP address from which it was sent is from Camilla's personal computer at the hospital. My God! Cecilia examined the papers, the magnitude of the persecution finally becoming clear. She really is obsessed with you. It's not just obsession, it's control. For her and her father, I'm an asset, an investment. The promising young doctor who could marry their daughter and continue the family legacy. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I never fueled this, never gave them hope, but they simply won't accept rejection. Cecilia sat down, processing everything. So the Edinburgh proposal? It's real, and now more necessary than ever. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. I've already formally accepted. I start in a month. Cecilia, please come with me. You and Lucas. The intensity in his gaze was almost physical. Cecilia felt her heart race, torn between the fear of the unknown and the danger of staying. "Henry, This is a huge change. My job, Lucas's school." I know. But I've already researched schools. In Edinburgh. There's a great one very close to the hospital, and they have openings for Portuguese teachers too. We could start over without the shadow of the rivers over us. What if they follow us there? Their influence is strong in London, but it doesn't reach that far. Besides, he hesitated. I have one more card up my sleeve. If they pursue us, I'll make public everything I know about their schemes at the hospital. Misappropriation of funds, favoring suppliers connected to the family, even falsification of research results to attract investments. Cecilia's eyes widened. You have proof of all that? Some. Not enough for a guaranteed conviction, but enough to cause a scandal they can't afford to face. She stood up, walking to the window. Down below, the city continued its nightlife, indifferent to the dramas unfolding in a small third-floor apartment. I'm scared, Henry. Scared to trust you again. Scared Lucas will get hurt if things don't work out. He approached, stopping a few centimeters from her. I'm scared, too. Scared of losing more time away from you both. Scared of not being the father Lucas deserves. His voice faltered slightly. But I know that together we are stronger than any threat. The silence that followed was broken only by the distant sound of the city. Finally, Cecilia turned to face him. We'll need at least 2 weeks. For me to formally resign, organize Lucas's school transfer, pack our things. Henry's face lit up. Does that mean yes? A small smile formed at the corner of her lips. It means I'll try for Lucas. And maybe a little for myself, too. The embrace that followed was laden with silent promises. When they pulled apart, something had changed between them. The path back to each other would be long, but the first step had just been taken. The next morning, as Cecilia prepared breakfast, her phone rang. It was Sandra, her friend from school. "Cece, what's going on? The principal just received an anonymous email accusing you of falsifying overtime hours." "What? That's absurd." Cecilia felt her blood run cold. "I know. Everyone knows you're the most honest person here. But it's strange. The email has screenshots of the time clock system, showing alleged inconsistencies." "Sandra, this is a setup. I'm being targeted." After hanging up, Cecilia immediately dialed Henry, who arrived at the apartment in record time. As she explained the situation, her phone rang again. It was Lucas's school. "Mrs. Almeida, this is Marcia from the secretary's office. There was an incident in the system. Someone accessed Lucas's record and altered information about vaccinations and attendance. The principal asked you to come urgently to resolve the situation." After hanging up, Cecilia looked at Henry, panic evident in her eyes. "It's starting. They're attacking on all fronts." "We need to accelerate our plans," he concluded decisively. "We don't have 2 weeks. We have to get out of here as soon as possible." "But what about my job? And Lucas's school?" "We can resolve that remotely, once we're safe in Edinburgh. For now, let's go to my apartment. It's a secure apartment building. They won't be able to get to you there so easily." While Cecilia packed an emergency bag with essentials for herself and Lucas, Henry made calls, organizing the accelerated move. The boy, waking up amidst the commotion, curiously watched the adults moving about. "Are we going on a trip, Mommy?" Cecilia paused, searching for the right words. "Yes, my love. We're going to Daddy's house for a few days. And then, if all goes well, maybe to a new city. Does Edinburgh have snow?" His eyes sparkled at the idea. Henry smiled, relieved by the positive reaction. "Not always, champ, but it's often cold in Scotland. In winter, sometimes there's frost, which looks like snow." "Cool. Can I bring my dinosaurs?" "All of them. Henry assured, ruffling his son's hair. Henry's apartment occupied the 10th floor of a modern building in Kensington. Spacious, minimalist, and elegant, it was the opposite of the cozy, simple home Cecilia had built. Lucas ran from room to room, marveling at the space and especially at the balcony that offered an impressive view of the city. "That room can be yours, if you want," Henry offered, indicating a room he used as an office. "We can transform it today." While Lucas explored, Cecilia observed the place that revealed so much about the man Henry had become in those years of separation. Designer furniture, state-of-the-art equipment, an immaculate kitchen that was clearly little used. "It's very different from what you're used to," he commented, noticing her appraising look. "Yes, but it doesn't matter," she smiled lightly. "What matters is that we'll be safe here." Henry approached, lightly touching her face. "This was never really a home, Cecilia. Just a place to sleep between shifts. But with you both here." He looked around, as if seeing the apartment for the first time. "Maybe it will finally become one." In the days that followed, they established a new routine. Cecilia took an unpaid leave from school, citing family problems, while Henry hired a labor law specialist to deal with the false accusations. Lucas was temporarily withdrawn from school, with the promise of a formal transfer once they were settled in Edinburgh. On the third day at Henry's place, while Lucas was taking a bath, Cecilia found an old box at the back of the guest bedroom closet where she was sleeping. Inside, there were photos of them together in college, letters she had written, and a pair of wedding rings in a small velvet box. Proof that, despite the years and circumstances, he had never truly forgotten her. "You weren't supposed to find that yet," Henry said, standing at the bedroom door, watching her with the rings in her hand. Cecilia looked at him, a silent question in her eyes. "I bought them 2 weeks before I left for London," he explained, approaching. "I was going to propose to you when I came back on leave for Christmas." The weight of that revelation was almost physical. 6 years lost because of external interference, 6 years that could never be recovered. "Henry, You don't have to say anything," he interrupted softly. "We're finding our way back to each other, in our own time." Before she could respond, the apartment intercom rang. It was the doorman informing them that a woman was insisting on seeing Dr. Miller, claiming it was a medical emergency. "Name?" Henry asked, tense. "Dr. Camilla Rivers." Cecilia and Henry exchanged alarmed glances. "Do not authorize her to come up," he instructed firmly. "And if she insists, call security." Hanging up the intercom, he moved quickly through the living room, checking that all doors and windows were properly closed. "How did she find out we're here?" Cecilia asked, fear evident in her voice. "I don't know. Maybe she followed my car. Maybe she bribed someone in the building." He grabbed his phone. "I'm calling the police." Before he could dial, the phone rang in his hands. It was Camilla. "Put it on speaker," Cecilia whispered. Henry nodded, answering the call. "Camilla." "Henry, darling, why so much hostility? I just want to talk." Her voice sounded artificially sweet, but with a hint of imbalance. "We have nothing to talk about. Please leave us alone." "Us?" "Oh, so the little teacher and the little bastard are really there with you. What a touching scene." A cold laugh echoed through the line. "You know, Henry, I really tried to be reasonable. I offered money, I offered a peaceful way out. But you insist on making things difficult." "What do you want, Camilla?" His voice was controlled, but the tension was evident. "What I've always wanted. You, our future together, the medical center with our names, the life we planned. That we never planned. All of that was in your head, Camilla. It always was." The silence that followed was heavy with threat. "You really don't understand, do you?" You think you can just throw away everything we built? Do you think I'll let that woman and that child destroy our future? There is no our future, Camilla. There never was. Then there will be no future for anyone. Her voice hardened. You know what happens to doctors accused of negligence, Henry? Even when acquitted, the stain never completely disappears. They'll never be fully trusted again. Henry paled. What are you talking about? Patient 307. Remember? That difficult case of cranial trauma you treated last month. It would be a shame if the medical record were altered to show that you ignored critical symptoms, wouldn't it? And if the exams indicated that you prescribed the wrong medication, you wouldn't be capable. But there was doubt in his voice. I already am, darling. Unless, of course, you end this ridiculous game and come back where you belong, by my side. At that moment, Lucas came, out of the bathroom, appearing in the hallway, wrapped in a towel too big for his small body. Seeing the adult's expressions, he stopped, confused. It's all right, my love. Cecilia forced a smile. Go to your room and change, okay? Daddy and I will be there soon. The boy nodded, still looking suspicious, before disappearing into the bedroom. He calls you Dad? How touching. Camilla's voice was pure venom. I'm sure he'll miss you very much when you can no longer practice medicine, or worse, when you're too busy fighting lawsuits to visit him at his mother's house. Enough, Camilla. Henry ended the call, his fingers trembling slightly. What are we going to do? Cecilia asked, her voice almost a whisper. He remained silent for a long moment, thinking. Then, as if making a decision, he picked up the phone again and dialed. Dr. Taylor, it's Henry Miller. We need to move up our plans. Yes, immediately, and prepare the documents we discussed. It's time to use them. Hanging up, he turned to Cecilia. We're leaving for Edinburgh tomorrow morning. We don't have any more time. What about her threats, the medical records? I'll spend the night at the hospital, ensuring nothing is altered. I've already alerted the head of information security, with whom I have a friendship. All changes to medical records leave digital traces, and Camilla knows that. It's more of an empty threat to scare us. He approached, holding her shoulders firmly. Trust me, Cecilia. I won't let her destroy what we're rebuilding. The next morning, before the sun even rose, they were all ready with the car loaded and ready to leave. Henry had spent the night at the hospital, ensuring that all his patients' medical records were properly protected and documented. The exhaustion was visible on his face, but there was also a renewed determination. Daddy, are you driving to Edinburgh without stopping? Lucas asked from the back seat, hugging his favorite dinosaur. We'll make a few stops, champ. It's a long journey. As they drove out of the city, the sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the sky in orange hues. It was almost poetic. A new day, a new beginning. I'll be driving another car further back, Dr. Taylor, who had met them in the building's garage, informed them. Just as a precaution. Any suspicious movement, let me know immediately. The journey went smoothly until mid-morning, when Henry noticed a silver car persistently following them for over an hour. He called the lawyer, who confirmed noticing the same vehicle. Don't stop, Taylor instructed. Drive straight to the next highway patrol station. We're about 20 minutes from one if we maintain speed. Cecilia, noticing the tension, kept Lucas distracted with games and stories. The boy, fortunately, was too excited about the idea of moving to notice the adult's nervousness. As they approached the police station, the silver car suddenly slowed down, abandoning the pursuit. Even so, Henry stopped and reported the incident to the police, who took down the vehicle's description and promised to be vigilant. Do you think it was her? Cecilia asked when they got back on the road. Or someone hired by her. But the important thing is that they gave up when they saw we were heading to the police. That means they don't want to draw attention. The journey continued without further incidents, and late in the afternoon, they finally arrived in Edinburgh. The apartment Henry had rented was in a quiet neighborhood close to the hospital where he would be working. It was smaller than his London apartment, but much more welcoming and homey, as if he had chosen it specifically with Cecilia and Lucas in mind. "What do you think?" he asked anxiously, as Lucas ran through the rooms exploring. Cecilia looked around. The warm-toned walls, the comfortable furniture, the functional kitchen, the landscape paintings on the walls. "It's perfect. And look, Mommy." Lucas came running back, excited. "My room has an entire wall painted with dinosaurs." Henry smiled, satisfied. "I hired a local artist to do that. I hope you like it, champ." That first night in Edinburgh, while Lucas slept, exhausted. From the journey, Henry and Cecilia sat on the small but cozy balcony, sharing a glass of wine. "I still can't believe we're actually here," she confessed, watching the city lights. "I know. It feels like we're finally free to start over." Henry's phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was a London number he didn't immediately recognize. With hesitation, he answered on speakerphone. "Dr. Miller?" It was a formal male voice. "This is Dr. Paul Gentry from the Ethics Committee at St. Christopher's Hospital. I apologize for bothering you so late, but we needed to inform you immediately." What happened? The tension returned to Henry's body. "There was an unauthorized access attempt to several of your patients' medical records this afternoon. Our security system flagged and blocked it immediately." "Camilla?" Henry murmured. "Yes, Dr. Miller, it was Dr. Rivers, but there's more. When confronted, she had an episode. She's currently admitted to the psychiatric ward." Henry and Cecilia exchanged worried glances. "What kind of episode?" he asked. "I'd rather not go into details over the phone, but I'd like to reassure you that all security measures have been taken and no medical records were compromised. The director would like to speak with you tomorrow, if possible." "I'll be in Edinburgh for the next few months, perhaps years, Dr. Gentry. I've accepted a position at St. Andrew's Hospital here." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I understand. Well, in any case, the committee would like to express our sincere apologies for what happened. And we would like to inform you that Dr. Richard Rivers has requested temporary leave from his administrative duties." After hanging up, Henry and Cecilia remained silent for a few moments, processing the information. "Is it over?" she finally asked. "Is it really over?" "I think so." He seemed as surprised as he was relieved. "But even so, I prefer that we stay here, not out of fear, but because—" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because this place can be our new beginning, without baggage, without complicated stories." Cecilia silently agreed. Edinburgh would be a new chapter for all of them. The weeks that followed were filled with adaptation and discoveries. Lucas was enrolled in an excellent school near Henry's new hospital. Cecilia, after a few interviews, secured a position as a Portuguese teacher at a private school, with a significantly better salary than she had in London. Henry immersed himself in his new job, coordinating the pediatric orthopedics department. His research, which he feared he would have to abandon, found new momentum with the enthusiastic support of the hospital's management. Little by little, the new routine took on familiar contours. Breakfast together every morning, Henry taking Lucas to school on days when Cecilia started earlier. Family dinners almost every night, except when Henry was on call. Weekends exploring the city's parks and attractions. 2 months after the move, they received news from London. Camilla had been permanently removed from her medical duties after a psychiatric evaluation, which diagnosed a severe obsessive disorder. Richard Rivers, though devastated by his daughter's situation, finally realized the role he had played in fueling her unhealthy behavior. As a form of reparation, he established a research fellowship in Henry's name at St. Christopher's Hospital, ensuring the continuity of his original work even from a distance. See, things have a way of working themselves out. Cecilia commented one evening after putting Lucas to bed. Henry hugged her from behind, watching their sleeping son. Yes, but not without a fight. And not without you. That night, for the first time since they reunited, they shared more than a roof. The love, which had never truly died, only slumbered under layers of hurt and misunderstanding, blossomed again in the complicit silence of the room. One Sunday morning, almost 6 months after the move, Henry woke Cecilia with breakfast in bed. "What are we celebrating?" she asked, sleepy. "Life, new beginnings, us." He smiled mysteriously. "Lucas and I have a surprise for you today. Dress comfortably, we're going out." The outing took them to the Royal Botanic Garden, Edinburgh, one of the family's favorite spots since the move. Lucas ran ahead, seemingly knowing the way to a specific place. "What are you two up to?" Cecilia asked, suspicious. Henry just smiled, guiding her along the flower-lined paths to a small gazebo decorated with flowers. Lucas waited there, holding something in his little hands. "It's time, champ," Henry said, kneeling beside his son. Lucas approached Cecilia, extending his hands. In them, the same velvet box she had found in the London apartment, containing the wedding rings Henry had bought 6 years earlier. "Mommy," the boy said, with the seriousness only a 6-year-old can assume in solemn moments, "Daddy wants to know if you want to marry him. And I also want to know, because then we'll be a real family." Tears formed in Cecilia's eyes as Henry stood up, taking the box from his son's hands. "6 years ago, I bought these rings with the certainty that we would spend our entire lives together. Fate separated us, but it also brought us back together in a way we could never have predicted." He opened the box, revealing the golden rings. "Cecilia Almeida, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife, formalizing the family we already are in our hearts?" She looked at the 2 men in her life, the big one and the small one, both looking at her with the same intense green in their eyes, the same expectation. "Yes," she simply replied, the words getting caught in the emotion of the moment. "Yes, to both of you." Lucas jumped for joy while Henry slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands slightly trembling. When they kissed, the boy joined the hug, forming a perfect circle of love and belonging. The ceremony 3 months later was simple and intimate. Held in the same botanic garden, it gathered only a few close friends, new ones from Edinburgh, and some old ones who made sure to travel from London. Lucas, proud in his little suit, carried the rings with the solemnity of someone who understands the importance of the moment. During the vows, Henry looked into Cecilia's eyes and said, "6 years ago, a misunderstanding separated us. Today, a small accident reunited us. Between these 2 events, our paths went separate ways, but they never truly distanced themselves. Because you were always with me, Cecilia. In our son's smile. In the memories I kept. In the hopes I never abandoned. I promised to make up for every lost day with a lifetime of love, respect, and partnership." Cecilia, with tears in her eyes, replied, "They say things happen for a reason. For a long time, I couldn't understand what the reason for our separation would be. Today, looking back, I see that we needed that time to become the people we are now. Stronger people, more mature, more prepared for true love. I promise to walk by your side as a partner and friend, in joy and sorrow, in easy days and difficult ones, because there is no better place for me than by my family's side." At the end of the ceremony, when the officiant declared them husband and wife, Lucas ran to hug his parents, sealing with his presence the union that, in a way, he had made possible with his accidental fall from the bed on that ordinary morning that would forever change the fate of that family. At the reception that followed, in a small restaurant near the garden, Henry raised his glass for a toast. "To the accidents of fate," he said, looking lovingly at his son and wife. "That, Tichi, us that sometimes we need to fall to find our true path. To the accidents of fate, Cecilia echoed, her heart overflowing with a happiness she had once thought impossible. On the makeshift dance floor, the three danced together, laughing as Lucas tried to imitate his father's steps. To the guests, they were the image of a perfect family. To them, they were much more. They were survivors, fighters, people who learned the hard way that true love is not just made of happy moments, but of overcoming, perseverance, and sometimes of small and providential accidents of fate. Later, that night, after putting an exhausted and happy Lucas to bed, Henry and Cecilia sat on the balcony of the new home they had built together. In silence, they watched the lights of Edinburgh, the city that had welcomed them and given them the chance for a new beginning. "Any regrets?" Henry asked, holding her hand where the wedding ring now sparkled. Cecilia reflected for a moment, thinking of everything they had been through. "None. Every step, every obstacle brought us here. I wouldn't change a thing." "Not even the 6 lost years?" "They weren't lost," she corrected gently. "They were necessary. For you to become the doctor and man you are today. For me to learn to be strong and independent. For Lucas to grow up knowing that love is not just physical presence, but choice and commitment." Henry pulled her closer, their hearts beating in sync. "You know, when I saw you in that office with Lucas, it was as if time stopped. As if everything else, the career, the ambitions, the plans, suddenly lost importance. It was scary," she admitted. "Seeing you there, so close after so long. It was. But it was also right. Like coming home after a long journey." The silence that followed was comfortable, laden with promises. In the next room, Lucas slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that his family was complete and united, exactly as it should be. "We really are starting over, aren't we?" Cecilia whispered, her head resting on Henry's chest. "No," he replied, gently kissing her forehead. "We are continuing what always should have been, our story, our life, our family." And so, under the starry sky of Edinburgh, they sealed with a kiss the promise of a future built not despite the mistakes and obstacles of the past, but because of them, strengthened by struggles, enriched by pains, and rewarded by the persistence of a love that neither time nor distance could extinguish. The next morning, Lucas woke his parents by jumping on their bed, excited about the day's plans. It was just an ordinary morning for an ordinary family, except that for them, every moment together was a small miracle, a gift that none of the three would ever take for granted again. And if anyone asked Cecilia or Henry when exactly they knew they would be together forever, both would answer, without hesitation, at the moment when a small accident brought back what fate had separated, proving that sometimes the most winding paths are the ones that lead us exactly where we were meant to be.